All right, welcome to week 11 of Ronde and Tiki Barber presented by SuperBook. I just added the barber, even though it's never in there. Ronde and Tiki presented by SuperBook. I was a little distracted because we had a surprise firing last night, Rondé. The Denver Broncos bested the Buffalo Bills, and Ken Dorsey gets the axe. I think I've been saying all league season long, Rondé, that there is a little something off with that relationship or with that quarterback coordinator situation up there. And after last night's or after Monday night's game, he gets the axe. Are you surprised by this?
Um, no, not at all. What I am surprised about is that just a week ago, they were pretty much telling him that he was safe and that they were 5-4 and that they needed continuity so they could make their potential run into the playoffs. But after watching that game last night, and I had to cover it for another entity, and it was awful. Josh Allen leads the league with 14 giveaways this year, and it's unacceptable. And you can tell that there's a disconnect somewhere
Yeah.
along the line. So, am I surprised? Absolutely not, because this is a team with such high playoff expectations, and they are not meeting them. I mean, the interceptions was one thing. The giveaways are a totally another thing. 4 giveaways. They had a chance to win that football game is amazing. Their defense played well, and it actually kind of speaks to the Denver Broncos as well. But
Yeah.
I'm not surprised by this at all.
So, you know that when Brian Dable came, he brought to the New York Giants and he left the Buffalo Bills. He brought this unique energy, right? It was this accountability, but it was likable.
Right.
You know what I mean? It wasn't intimidating. It wasn't like he was screaming and yelling at his players the whole time. And honestly, I think that's what the Bills and in particular Josh Allen missed. Ken Dorsey is a very good coordinator. He's fine to details, right? And I think what Josh Allen in particular needed was a yin and a yang. And with Brian Dable there, he had one side of it. When Brian Dable left, he didn't have that anymore. And it was just a grind. And I think the void got filled by Josh Allen trying to be a hero. Like Josh Allen
Right.
trying to do things that a more disciplined, focused, detailed, I can talk to you, coach, would have prevented him from doing. We saw it last year with Daniel Jones when Brian Dable goes over to him after the Tennessee game in week 1, he throws that bad interception to Saquon Barkley. Most people won't remember that, but we do here in New York. He goes up to him and says quite succinctly, make better decisions, right? And there was accountability that translated throughout the entire team, in particular Daniel Jones, who led the league a year ago in lack of turnovers. So 1.1% turnover potential or turnover rate last year. I think that the Buffalo Bills are missing that, if anything else. I'll be surprised to see how they fill this void now that Ken Dorsey isn't there as a coordinator, but also who provides that balance for Josh Allen.
Well, you've made that argument before about the Dayball and Ken Dorsey argument. I just think Ken Dorsey's a little quirky and he's hard to relate to. They bring in quarterback coach Joe Brady, and we're going to touch on this a little bit later and ask me. But I don't know that this void gets filled. You're 10 games into the season now. This is who you are on offense. You can't all of a sudden change this overnight. Yeah. And I think the Bills are going to have a struggle to push themselves into the playoffs playing the way that they are playing. But we can move on because they have to.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it makes the division a lot more interesting. That's for sure. It's a sub 500 Jets team now feels like maybe they do have a chance. A team that's been confounding, I guess, is the way to put it, because at times I think that the Baltimore Ravens are one of the best teams in football. I feel
Orioles
like
were not very good. The Orioles were not very good in the playoffs.
No, they were not very good in the playoffs. Somebody was just talking to me about the Orioles on top of my mind. But the Baltimore Ravens, one week they look like they're the best team in football. The next week it looks like they give things away. They gave away a game last weekend to the Cleveland Browns, and now they take on the Cincinnati Bengals, who just lost to the Houston Texans. It just creates this I don't know what the hell is going on type of situation, but I think it's a great game to start this week the Baltimore Ravens and the Cincinnati Bengals. It's a black and blue division game. With the way that Joe Burrow has been playing now that he's healthy, he had a calf injury to start the season. I feel like they're back, but they also just lost a game that a lot of people thought they should have won. I can't figure out the North other than one team, and that's the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are going to win no matter how good or bad they play. But this matchup, but I'm serious, this matchup
Yeah,
between the Bengals and the Ravens has so much at stake simply for midseason momentum shifts.
right. And I couldn't agree with you more. I'm glad that Thursday night football this week is Cincinnati, Baltimore. Baltimore, 3.5 point favorites right now. I think 46 is the over under. And it's a game where you ask yourself, who are you going to trust more? Are you going to trust the Bengals that went on that 3-game winning streak and then lost to a guy that everybody's now saying might be an MVP candidate in CJ Stroud, which he might be, which we'll talk about a little bit? Or you
Yeah.
Baltimore, who just a week ago we were commenting that they might be the best team in the AFC, but yet there's so many decisions that happened in that Baltimore game last week that just makes me think maybe they are this team that just keeps failing when it
Yeah.
matters most. The only good thing is that you nailed it, that this is a huge game in the AFC North, the most competitive division in football, really. All 4 teams have winning records. Pittsburgh keeps finding ways to win. Cincinnati went on a run. Baltimore went on their run. And I have no idea how this works. If I'm looking at this game, though, Tiki, and I'm looking at it from a betting aspect, I think I'm going to take Cincinnati with the plus 160. Like, they have so much offense, and
Yeah.
Baltimore's defense is beat up right now. Marlon Humphrey, I think, is going to be out this game. He left last week's game with a calf strain, I believe it was, and they find ways to lose football games. Baltimore does over the course of 2 or 3 years. This is who they've been. So
You're right.
if I'm taking a pick, it's that one.
Yeah, they take a lead into the fourth quarter. I think I can't remember the statistic, but they've taken leads into the fourth quarter and blown them pretty consistently, despite having also an MVP candidate at quarterback in Lamar Jackson. Now, look, part of this is just luck going their way, going against them against the Cleveland Browns. Lamar gets a ball tipped at the line of
Right.
scrimmage. It gets intercepted and right in return for a touchdown. Like those are circumstances. But it's the reality is they shouldn't have been in that situation to lose. But the NFC North is compelling to me. I'm interested, and I will be as the next 3 or 4 weeks play out, whether or not we're going to trend towards all 4 of those teams making the postseason. Because right now
Right.
they're right there to make it. You mentioned CJ Stroud, Rondé. Like this shows the fallacy of the old narrative. Right? There used to be a conversation around Alabama quarterbacks. Can't take an Alabama quarterback. They don't throw the ball. They just run the ball, play good defense. You can't take out. There's 3 starters. Well, Mac Jones is probably not going to be a starter for long, but you know what I mean? There's 3 starters in the NFL from the University of Alabama. The same saying could be said about Ohio State. Never take an Ohio State quarterback. There has never been a successful one. But there's something about CJ Stroud's composure and his ability to make every throw with every kind of weight on the ball, every kind of decision or angle, arm angle. It feels like he is a 6 or 7 year vet for a guy who's been in the league with a rookie head coach, by the way, for
Right.
4 months. Right? It's
Right.
it's astonishing, but I think it also just tells you every now and then, just like 5 years ago when Pat Mahomes came in the league, you just get blessed with a star. And I got to tell you, Ronde, the NFL needs these guys because there are not enough good quarterbacks in the NFL after all the old heads retired.
I totally agree. And it's almost like we started this show by burying the lead. Obviously, we had to talk about Buffalo firing their offensive coordinator, but we almost buried the
Yeah.
lead and didn't start off talking about CJ Stroud. But it feels like we've been talking about CJ Stroud every
Every
single week. every week. It's like, what more can he do? Look, you can't talk MVP candidacy for him until they make the playoffs. I'm going to just start and stop right there.
Yeah.
However, this is 2 weeks in a row where a rookie quarterback goes up against a defense that's actually pretty good and comes out and finds ways to win at the end of the game. And I will revert back to this. He is doing it by throwing the ball to a guy named Noah Brown, a guy named Tank Dell, who was a third-round draft pick this year. Robert Woods is on IR. Nico Collins got hurt in this game. So he is doing this essentially by himself, not by himself, but in a manner that says it doesn't matter who I'm throwing this football
Yeah,
to.
exactly. It's not stars.
Yes, he's not throwing it to stars, right?
Yeah.
And most importantly, when I'm thinking about CJ Stroud and how well he's playing, I'm like, dude, they're only a game back of Jacksonville right now.
I know. And Jacksonville just got
Houston
trashed.
just got destroyed by San Francisco. We've been saying this since the beginning of week, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5. What is the NFL this year? I have no idea still.
It's the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the Philadelphia Eagles because they find ways to win. I guess it's Detroit, even though they had a barn burner this past weekend and, won on a late touchdown, having to score almost 50 points. The NFL is a crapshoot this year. So it just tells you that, like, our history, like our collective understanding of what's supposed to happen is not going to hold true. And it's no more evident. And when you look at the Minnesota Vikings, Rondé, I mean, Kevin O'Connell taking Joshua Dobbs in a trade a week ago. He didn't take a snap in practice. He gave him a wristband and said, just call the plays. I'll kind of direct you what to do, right? And they won a game. And guess what? He won another game this week, right? That shouldn't happen. You shouldn't essentially pick a guy up off the street and not miss a beat. That's what it feels like with Minnesota. That's where you get coaches who get in consideration for Coach of the Year.
Well, consider this. Before we go to Minnesota, speaking about guys coming off of out of nowhere, what do you think about Kyler Murray's return last week? Did he not look like Kyler Murray and the only reason I say that because Arizona plays at Houston this week. Houston's 4-point favorite. I mean, Arizona looked like the worst team in football, angling for a top quarterback. And now all of a sudden, I'm sitting here saying, well, maybe Kyler's still Kyler Murray.
Well, Kyler, look, Rhonda, you know this because Kyler he's a gamer, right? He's not one of those guys that he's not going to go in like Peyton Manning, right? He's not going to come in and just manipulate things at the line of scrimmage. Oh, I see what you're trying to do to me over here. Yeah, I'm going to, can that thing, go it the other way. No, check it. I'm going to audible go. That's not Kyler Murray. Kyler Murray is going to backyard it a lot of the games. He can execute. He's a great asset in the run game, as we saw on the rushing touchdown that he scored. But he has the confidence, despite his size, to play big in the pocket. And so I think that Arizona is using these next few weeks, and maybe even to the rest of the season, to determine if he's their guy. And based off of his first week back, they don't need to draft another quarterback. If he plays like that and he has that kind of like dedication or understanding of what he's supposed to do, and he's not just winging it, then they don't need to draft a quarterback. But I think that's what this rest of the season is for the Arizona Cardinals.
Are you taking plus 170 Arizona at Houston?
Hell no. No. I am all on the Houston Texans bandwagon right now. And honestly, a lot of it's because of the coach. I like D'Amico Ryans. I like what he's brought. There's like an accountability. There's a seriousness with which they play. And, in a couple of weeks, I'll have them for CBS. And I'm looking forward to the game because I talked to D'Amico when he was a coordinator in San Francisco after he took over for Robert Saleh. And it just felt like he was understanding, but he was swimming, right? He's like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I got to figure this thing out. A year later, he's head coach, and they're in playoff position, right? After everybody thought that they were going to stink. So I'm taking the Houston Texans, man. I like to see Tua, or I like to see Kyler come back that way, but the Texans just feel like they're a team that is going to be tough to beat right now.
All right. So now speaking about quarterback decisions, now that Josh Dobbs is in Minnesota and playing well, I mean, he adds a different dimension with his legs, right? Because he's
Mhm.
been able to scramble. I mean, obviously that first week he was just out creating on his own, saying, uh, draw it up in the dirt and I'll figure out where
Yeah.
I can throw this
Yeah.
ball after I scramble around a little bit. But they got a quarterback, Kirk Cousins, they got to make a decision on. I'm sitting here thinking to myself, are they going to have to make a decision on Josh Dobbs at the end of the season if he takes them to the playoffs? They won 5 games in a row. And you mentioned it, Tiki. If O'Connell is not in Coach of the Year consideration, if this team is able to squeak into the playoffs, then you just throw everything out the window. Because this might
Yeah.
be the best coaching job in the history of a 5-week stretch since their quarterbacks didn't get hurt. Justin Jefferson's hurt. Quarterback is hurt. You got a rookie wide receiver, Jordan Addison, just showing up, and they're riding a great defense. So the reason why I like Minnesota, and they play the Broncos this week. Broncos are 2-point favorites. Vikings are plus 110. It's not big enough for me to take the money line, but
Yeah.
as I'm looking at this game, they have a defense under Brian Flores that might be the funnest one to watch in football right now. And not a lot
Yeah.
of people probably pay attention to that because of what Josh
All right.
Dobbs is doing, but their chaotic genius on that side of
Yeah.
the ball is pretty awesome, man.
Yeah, Brian Flores is that guy, right? That's what he was brought there for, to be intense, but to be diversified, variable in what they were doing, and you're starting to see it. And Ronnie, you didn't even mention they let Dalvin Cook walk out the door. Now, maybe that was a
Right.
good thing because he hasn't done anything with the New York
Right.
Jets. But I mean, everything changed. They started 1-3. They started 0-3, and then 1-3 this season, and they're one of the more exciting teams in football right now. So, just a quick to answer your question on the question about Josh Dobbs, you realize he's been on 5 teams since December of last year. 5 teams, which is nuts to think about. And he's had different levels of success. Most of those he didn't really play, but he had success in
Right.
Arizona for the short time until they moved off for him because it felt like they were actually trying to tank and then just say, oh, we'll bring Kyler back, and then they start winning games, and then he comes here and he's won his first 2 games. The first one, improbably, it's unfathomable to think about how he won that first game without ever practicing. What is their decision after the season? Kurt's gone. They're not re-signing Kurt because I think Kurt deserves a decent, not a $50 million contract, but he's going to get 30 something million dollars contract next year
Right.
to be a starter somewhere because there's just a dearth of quarterbacks. We've talked about this many times. But Josh Dobbs, I promise you, he's going to sign a Tyrod Taylor type deal. It'll probably be more than that. It'll probably be, Tyrod got 2 years, 16. Josh Dobbs is going to get 2 years, 20 million. And
Right.
he'll compete for the quarterback. He'll start who if they draft somebody or if they, pick a developmental project in the second round or third round. But he's going to come in the next year, I think, is their starter, and they'll probably take whatever quarterback falls into the second round because there's actually a whole bunch of them, whether it's Michael Penix or JJ McCarthy or one of those guys, and they'll
Right.
develop that player for a couple of years and just let Josh Dobbs do Josh Dobbs stuff. Right? He's become, in my mind, the most valuable second level quarterback in the NFL because
Well, he's
he can be your backup or he can just start and win.
That's what you want, right? Out of a guy at that level that you're talking about, you want him to be able to start if he has to,
Yeah.
but be a most valuable backup on your team. I can't agree with you more. I know they have Jaron Hall in the wings. They drafted him this year
No.
out of BYU, but I don't think he's that guy. I think your
Nope.
better option is Josh Dobbs or wherever you get in the draft. However, who knows where this team finishes? I mean, again, we mentioned it just a second ago. They play the Broncos this week, and -2 at home. Broncos. Look, I watched that game Monday night. Russell Wilson is the most indecisive quarterback I think I've ever seen. He will not
No, they
let the
win in
ball out of his
spite of
hands.
him.
There's a reason he's doing that because he doesn't want to turn the football over. And their defense is starting to play better. And so now you're sitting here saying, can Minnesota go on the road and try to win their 6th game in a row? And
Hmm.
like I said, money line's not good enough, but I think I'm taking 2 points. Minnesota, they
I
don't seem
would.
to lose.
I would. I would. You mentioned Justin Jefferson's not in there. Didn't miss a beat. He's the best wide receiver in football. They don't miss a
Right.
beat. They actually play better. It's nuts. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. All right, we'll come back to segment 2 here in a second, Rondé. But first, you can win a trip to the biggest game of the year, courtesy of SuperBook Sports. SuperBook will fly you and a friend to Las Vegas for February's championship game. They'll also give you 2 tickets to the game plus a 3-night hotel stay. All you have to do is place a $25 same game parlay between now and January 7th. That's $25 on a same game parlay between now and January 7th, and you're automatically entered to win. You don't got to do anything. Just place that same game parlay. You're going to be entered automatically to win this trip. So wager and win a super trip to Las Vegas, courtesy of SuperBook Sports. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. By the way, this is not valid in Tennessee or Nevada.
All right, people. Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook Sports, is back at you. And segment 2, Tiki, show me the money. Let's talk the Las Vegas Raiders. Besides, we all want to go to the big game. We all want to go to the big game, Las Vegas. Can you believe in the Las Vegas Raiders? Or Tiki, are they just lucky to have played both New York teams in back-to-back wins?
Well,
that's the question. That's a question you have to ask yourself. Serious question.
I'm trying to figure this out. Because all season long, all we've talked about with the Las Vegas Raiders, or anyone who has talked about the Las Vegas, is, oh, this is a terrible team. They're trash. They're garbage. They can't win. Maybe they were just shittily coached. I'm serious. And Antonio Pierce taking over brings a different kind of energy, a different kind of accountability, a different kind of relatability. I think is more apt way to put it. And so that his players actually respond to whatever's being coached. Because I look at the team and I'm like, Josh Jacobs is a hell of a running back. He's
Right.
not bad. Devontae Adams is maybe the best receiver in football. He's not bad. I think Jacoby Myers, he's actually pretty decent of a player. He's got 500. He's not bad. Wait, on the other side of the ball, Max Crosby, that dude is a beast. So, and you just keep going through some of these players, and you're like, okay, they don't suck. They just had a sucky coach. It's amazing how a coach, and I'm talking Josh McDaniels now, but just really anywhere can make good players bad. And it's hard to do, right? There's Evan Roberts, who's my co-host on my WFAN show, always says it's hard to get fired in the middle of a season. Right? It takes a special kind of awful to for your owner and your general manager to say, dude, it ain't worth it for you finishing this year. I know it's like, oh, we'll get a head start on who's going to be the next coach nonsense, but I think it's less that. I think it's that special kind of awful. Because I look at the Las Vegas Raiders, and I'm not fully buying them yet, but yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo, who's a shell of anything, is your starting quarterback. And it's like they pushed him into being that guy. It's not like he competed for it. Aiden O'Connell is a very good young player from Purdue. He can throw the ball. He's like any young quarterback. He's going to try not to make the bad decision, but that keeps it simple. You know what I mean? And you have a good running game, which you've seen the last couple of weeks, and you have Devontae Adams, right? So I get this firing, and now I understand it after watching 2 weeks. Yes, it was the Jets and it was the Giants the week before that, but both those teams play good defense, and the Raiders were able to do some things definitely against the Giants, and they did enough against the New York Jets, mostly just picking off Zach Wilson at an inopportune time with Spillane's interception. So they have talent. I think the Raiders just needed the right coach.
Right. And by the way, second time in his tenure, McDaniel
McDaniels
fired halfway through his second season. So the rubber hits the road with the Raiders this week. So we're going to find out how real this team is going to be because they play at Miami, and I said, show me the money to start off this segment because this is the largest spread of the week. -12 Miami at home versus the Raiders. And the money lines are ridiculous. Right?
Dude,
-800 Miami, plus 525 for the Raiders on the road. So
dude,
apparently,
can I borrow
no
100?
matter what you, yeah, exactly.
Can I borrow
No matter what
$100?
Yes, no matter what you just said about the Las Vegas Raiders being a somewhat good team, Vegas is basically daring you to bet them this week. Because
Yeah,
look, I I don't know that they're going to be able to produce like they have been against a very good Miami football team, and Miami's not, the best team
yeah,
in the AFC like we thought they were at the beginning of the season. But there's a reason that they are 12-point favorites in this football game. They're just explosive. I
yeah,
think they'll have this mentality that this team thinks they're hot, you know, but is it your game? Are you
yeah.
hot or is it your
Well,
game? You're going to find that out this week about the Raiders in Miami.
so here's what I think. This is how you slow Miami down. You frustrate them. You don't play man coverage, right? You don't,
Yeah,
play
no,
cover 3, like zone dogs, get in a press corner trying to get the deep third. That's what the Giants did, by the way. It didn't work, right?
didn't work.
He's going to run by you. You could be 9 yards off, and he's going to run by you, right? So the only way you got to play clouds, right? You got to play clouds with Miami and just frustrate them. Make them complete passes and break tackles, right? That's how you have to do it, and shut down their run game because that's really what they go off of, and it's why, Rondé, you know this. They like the good teams, like the good defenses that they've played, the teams that are over 500, dare I say, like they beat Miami, right? They're able to
Yeah,
frustrate them. And so if you're Antonio Pierce, he's got to not let his ego get a hold of him and be like, "We're going head to head with them." Right? I'm from Compton. We're going to crush them. You can't do that, right? Because that's how AP is, by the way. That's why they love him out there. Just be
yeah,
real, right?
yeah,
But you can't. You got to throw your ego aside and play smart, like, I don't know, just smothering defense. You can't. I know some guy, or whoever it may be, one of your corners is gonna be like, "I got this. I got him." I No, you don't. No, you don't. You can't. You're not covering him. You're not traveling with him. That's not. It don't work. So as long as they play smart and like link shorten the game, hand the ball off to Josh. Josh Jacobs has got to become a 1990 running back this week, right? 25 to 30 touches, right? And
right, exactly,
if that happens, they have a chance. If not,
right.
I mean,
You don't want Marcus Peters D'ing up Tyreek Hill all day long
no,
because that's going to be a
no.
long track meet. All right, next biggest line of the week, Tiki. You just had these guys. Tampa Bay Buccaneers minus 11 and a half at the San Francisco 49ers. That money line is, by the way, plus 475. I'm not spending my $100 on that because the San Francisco 49ers are a different team. And I mean a really different team with Debo Samuel in the lineup. They
Yeah,
are, they feel like you have no answer for what they do. They play so many mind games with defense. Jacksonville was a good team last week until they
not
played San
last week.
Francisco.
Not last week. They weren't.
That's what I mean. Going into
Yeah,
last
yeah,
week, they
yeah.
were a good team.
Oh
Now
yeah,
we're
yeah.
looking at
You're
them.
right.
The narrative is completely changed. They're like, maybe Jacksonville's not that good. They just got trounced by the 49ers, who were on a 3-game losing streak. So this is one of those years. I'm telling you, like we're riding the emotional roller coaster with every team in the NFL because every team's having their highs and lows. But I think we've said this in the past about San Francisco. Um, Brock Purdy, good player. He's not
Yeah,
going to beat you in drop back passing. He doesn't have the arm strength, and they're front runners. They're front runners because the Debo Christian McCaffrey combination, throw in Brandon Ayuk and George
yeah,
Kittle, whatever you want. You could talk about their defense when they get ahead. You're not coming back on them. Their defense is
No.
too good when they have a lead. And Tampa, I mean, congratulations on breaking your 4-game losing streak against the Tennessee Titans this past week. Your
Yeah.
reward is a cross-country trip to San Francisco to face the juggernaut that seems to be back. It's only 1-game sample right now that they're back, but it seems to be back.
I think that San Francisco, and help me out, Rondé, because I can't remember who said this. There was a DB, somebody said to Debo Samuel, "You're just a running back who can catch." I can't remember who it was. And when I heard it, I was like, "Oh, that's cold-blooded." But then I was like, you know, he is, but he's also a 1,000-yard wide receiver.
Right.
Right? He's be hybrid, dude. Like all
Who
because
cares?
he's what CJ Gardner Johnson, that's what it was. Thank you, Louis. CJ Gardner Johnson said that. Debo Samuel is what like the athlete that was me. All right. My size, I was fast, had some muscle hamster to me. I could catch the ball out of the backfield. I was a good wide receiver. Debo Samuel is who me as a football player in 2023 and beyond is going to be. Right?
Going to be right.
Right. There's not going to be any 5'10, 205, 10,000-yard rushers anymore. It's just not happening. It's just never going to happen.
No.
The game is going away from that mentality and that player. So I'm telling every kid who's not 6'1", who's not 5'8", but just right in that little 5'10", which is average, like the average athlete, be Debo Samuel, because
Right.
Debo
And by the
Samuel.
way,
Go ahead.
no, I was just saying. By the way, they have 2 of them. The other one's a white
Yes,
guy named Christian McCaffrey.
that's right. That's exactly right. So that's why you look at their team, and I give Kyle Shanahan so much credit for being a great coach, but I think more so for being and John Lynch for being a great roster builder. Right?
Yeah.
You get these interchangeable parts, and so now all of a sudden teams are like, oh, they got 11 personnel in. Not really. That could be 12. Or that could be
Right.
22.
And to your point, it's not random. It's not by luck.
No,
It's very
no.
specific the way that they have built this roster, especially on offense, but particularly on defense. They're going to win up front. They're going to have great rushmen. It's a reason you go out and get Chase Young. Their
Yeah.
pass rush wasn't
Trade for him.
as producing as much as it had been in the past or what they expected of it. And so they said, okay, we'll fix that. Just like they went out last year and said, our running game's not is quite as dynamic. I don't quite have the piece that I need. Oh, you know what? Carolina's dumb enough to give me Christian McCaffrey. We'll take that. So it's very intentional, their success. And there's a reason why this game is 11.5. By the way, in case you're wondering, Tiki, your Giants are the 3rd biggest dog this week.
We're not even talking about them.
At the Commanders. I know. I just wanted to tell you that.
We're not even talking about them.
Before we go to the break, I just wanted to let you know. It probably will be the least watched game of the week.
Yeah, but take the Giants on the money line on that one, by the way. If the Giants have no success against anybody, you got $100 to waste. Throw it on the Giants.
Sam Howell leads the league in passing.
Okay,
Sam Howell.
Okay, Rondé.
I'm just trying to
go look a tad bit deeper, like to the column to the left of that total yardage, and look at his attempts. The dude's got Tom Brady broke a record last year with attempts in a season. I want to say it was like 700 and something. Sam Howell is going to break it this year. I promise you. Because halfway through the season, he was more than halfway there.
That fear, the enemy effect.
Yes. By the way, I liked your team last week. I had the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If they learn nothing from last week, know this. Mike Evans needs at least 12 targets. He might drop 1 or 2.
10 to 12.
Might drop 1 or 2, but 10 to 12. Because he will change the game for you.
Right.
Period.
Only answer. Only answer. All right, let's go to
Only
break.
answer. All right. We'll come back. One more break, and we'll get to Ask You, Ask Me. Didn't we change that? Ask Rondé? I can't remember now. Too many hits over the years. Refer a friend and earn a $50 bonus this season with SuperBook Sports. SuperBook is the most trusted name in sports wagering, and you don't want to miss their Refer a Friend bonus. All you need to do is click on the Refer a Friend link under your profile picture in the SuperBook app, share the promo code with your friends, and you'll get $50 for everyone who registers using your code. So click the Refer a Friend link, copy that code, send it to all of your friends. And if you get 5 friends that sign up, you'll get $250. If you get 1 friend, you'll get $50. If you get 10 friends, you get $500. You know the math. Man, if you have 100 friends, you get $5,000. You get 5 G's. Actually, they're probably going to put a limit on that. But so win some money wagering at SuperBook, but also win some money referring to SuperBook. This season at SuperBook Sports, they're taking care of you in all different ways. Visit superbook.com for terms and conditions. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. All right, last segment here on Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook. This is the Ask You, Ask Me. I'm going to ask you first, Ronde. The Bills, we talked about this earlier. They fired Ken Dorsey. They still have some talent on the team, so it's not like they're done. You can't say they're toast. But do you have any confidence left in them? They hire Joe Brady, who is a W&M grad. Go Tribe, your youngest daughter. He also had a ton of success. Yeah. He was the pass game coordinator at LSU, as we all remember, with Joe Burrow and that super trio that they had. Terrace Marshall's the forgotten one, by the way. He's great. He was great in college. Has not quite panned out in Carolina. But do you have faith in what they're potentially going to try to, it's not rebuild, but just, restart?
They need to look themselves in the mirror. They played 10 games, so they haven't had their bye week yet. They need to look themselves in the mirror at some point and say, our offense needs to go through James Cook. If they do that, because he ran angry on Monday night, they benched him after the first play fumble. He didn't play in the entire first quarter. And then he was a man possessed when they went to their tempo touchdown drives. One of them, he was playing basketball with the ball. It was the craziest 42-yard run I've ever seen. He got stripped, fumbled it, played basketball with it 2 steps, picked it up, had a 42-yard gain. I was like, what the hell just happened? But the reality is, with him and Latavius Murray, they can be a running team and then take some pressure off Josh Allen. He's trying to do too much. And I know why they fired Ken Dorsey. Right. I know why they fired Ken Dorsey, because Ken Dorsey had it in his mind that the only way they were going to win games is if Josh Allen's arm took us there. And by the way, Josh Allen hurt his shoulder at some point during the Tampa game, maybe a month ago, 3 weeks ago, and he hasn't been the same. His accuracy is off. All those little short intermediate routes that Stephon Diggs has been thriving on over the years, he's missing them. So something has to give. Now, on defense, they're beat up, right? They've lost so many guys on defense. They are playing hard, man. Their defense is giving them a chance. So do I believe they can turn it around? Only if they take the ball, if Joe Brady takes the ball out of Josh Allen's hand. Now, the one thing about Joe Brady, and this is the one thing that's inspiring confidence in me, he spreads the ball around a lot. His first year in Carolina, he had 4 players with over 1,000 yards from scrimmage. And one of them wasn't Christian McCaffrey, by the way. So he has a different mentality than what Ken Dorsey has. And I think that is going to allow them to at least stay competitive as they try to make their push towards the playoff. Because right now, the season ended now, they're not in the playoffs. They know that something has to change. All right, my question to you, Tiki, and this is a good one. Last week, we went into Ronde and Tiki, presented by SuperBook, talking Baltimore Ravens as the best team in the AFC. But after another collapse against the Cleveland Browns team that was losing for 59 minutes and 20 seconds, are they still the the best team in the AFC? And is it coaching that makes them losing these games at the end of
Well, so here's a couple of things to note. They are still one of the top defenses in football, right? They're going to be all season long because of the talent that they have on the defensive side of the ball. And I think more appropriately, they are the best complementary football team in the game because Lamar Jackson doesn't turn the ball over a lot last week, notwithstanding. They run the hell out of the football. They're the #1 rush team by yards in the league, and they always are. I mean, I always used to talk about, hey, you get to 2,200 yards, he had a good rushing season. They regularly, when he's healthy, Lamar, rush for 3,000, right? And they're halfway there, by the way. They're 15, almost 1,600 yards halfway through the season. So they're a good complementary team, but their defensive coordinator, Mike McDonald, is young, right? And there's mistakes that happen at times that good teams and good coaches will take advantage of. I think on the other side, Todd Monken is brand new here. So he's just getting used to Lamar being this more of a pocket passer. Obviously, he's always going to be a runner, but this more of a pocket passer. So when they get in critical in-game situation, or let's call it situational football, I'm not necessarily saying 4-minute, but protecting a lead football, he's trying to balance. Do I stay aggressive or do I get really conservative? And getting really conservative, it just never works, right?
never
Bad
works
things
with Lamar.
happen. That is right. Because you can't make him be conservative. So I
Right.
think the thing that they will figure out, again, John Harbaugh has been a head coach forever, but his coordinator is just there for his first year. His defensive coordinator, I think it's his second year, but he's a young kid. I think he's 37 years old or whatever it is. So they're learning how to be complimentary for 60 minutes. Like, and they're the best team in football to be complimentary football. So the question is, am I worried about them? No. That was a lesson learning game against a very good Cleveland defensive team who, if you give them opportunities, they're going to take advantage of it. And that's why they lost that game. I don't expect that to happen again. Lamar's still over 70%. One of the top quarterbacks in the league. He's probably favorite right now to win the MVP, with everything that he's done. But I think their coaching staff is starting to. They still have some it's like cohesive work to work out over these next 7 or 8 weeks.
All right, real quick before we get to our one and only game that we're talking about on Ronde and Tiki presented by SuperBook. Speaking of Cleveland, 6-3 versus 6-3, home versus the Steelers. Steelers are plus 165 on the money line. Browns are
4-point
favorite.
Take that.
Take that.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what happens in the game. Dude, it doesn't matter how you analyze this. It doesn't matter what the stats say. It doesn't matter what the stats in the game say. It doesn't matter.
Right.
Pittsburgh's got to find a way to win this game. You know why? You know what they remind me of? They remind me of what the Giants did last year. They make every game one possession. And in that one possession moment, whatever it is, either whether it's offense or they win it. It's kind of it's
Right.
old. It's Bill Belichickian, to be honest with you.
Right. And to your point, Tiki, and it just stats wise, there's 70 points that separate the point differential between these two teams. Think about that. The Steelers are, let's see, the Steelers are minus 28 point differential. 26, I'm sorry. The Cleveland Browns plus 44. And you're sitting there telling yourself, wait a minute. But yet the Pittsburgh Steelers, in 5 of their 6 wins this year, I had to look this up. It was awesome stat. In 5 of their 6 wins this year, their defense has made a play inside the final 2 minutes to win the game. That's how they keep winning these football games. They stay close enough. Their offense does just enough. I mean, finding out what this quarterback is, Kenny Pickett, that's a story for a different day. But their defense does just enough to win games, and so I'm kind of with you. A team that just can't.
I should take the Browns laying the 4, right? But I just can't. Give me the Steelers, and I'd take them on the money line.
All right, Tiki, let's go. One more game to talk about. Take a deep dive into what will probably be the most bet game of 23. It is a Super Bowl review and a preview at the same time. Take it away.
Yeah. This is so I have this game. This is what I think is going to be the Super Bowl again. This hasn't happened since The Cowboys, Bills, I believe, and one they had to have been in the 4 back-to-back AFC championships for the Bills, and they lost to the Cowboys. That definitely was the last time that this happened. But this is what I think is going to be the Super Bowl matchup. And the Eagles, both these teams are similar in so many ways, right? They're not world-beating football, but they find ways to win games, and they have great quarterbacks, or quarterbacks who you would consider great if you were in your home state. Pat Mahomes is obviously iconic, MVP multiple times, and Jalen Hurts he's a grinder, right? I'm not saying he's ever going to be the top 2 or 3 quarterbacks, but he's a grinder. He's the guy you'd want in the foxhole on your side, because he's just going to find a way. And I think the difference here, Rondé, is that the Chiefs, I think the first time that I can remember consistently, are kind of winning defensively, right? They're doing it on the other side of the ball, as opposed to Pat Mahomes running around being hero and I'm going to throw this thing, Tyreek Hill, go get that. It's shifted. It's like they run the ball a lot more than they have. They still throw the ball a ton, but they're throwing balls to their running back types, right? They're throwing balls to Isaiah Pacheco. They're throwing balls to Jerick McKinnon, right? He's got 3 touchdowns on the season already, receiving touchdowns on the season, Jerick McKinnon. And Isaiah Pacheco has 1 as well. So their offense is a lot more contained and controlled than it was when we thought they were going to match the Rams, which is one of the greatest shows on turf. That's not what they're doing. They're doing it defensively. They have guys that get after the quarterback. What's his name? Karlaftis. He's got 6 sacks on the season, and 3 other guys have over 3 sacks as well. So defensively, they've turned into a bit of a juggernaut. They're top 5 defense in the National Football League. So that then now pits them with what the Eagles do well, right? So this matchup feels exactly what it's supposed to be. I know the Chiefs are laying 3 here. To me, this feels like a pick 'em. So if putting it that way, I'd take the Eagles.
Right. The Eagles. So speaking of foxholes, the hell with foxholes, make them dig. That's what, to me, the Eagles are. They're like, I ain't getting no damn foxhole. Make the Chiefs get in the fox. They're at home. Put it. But I as I'm previewing this game, Andy Reid has never lost to his former team. I don't know if people buy into that stuff, but Andy Reid has never lost to the Eagles. The Eagles are number 1 in rush D. So to your point, they can rush the passer. My only question, and Kansas City's coming off a bad game, losing to Denver, 5 giveaways in that game. Eagles' deep pass defense might be their weakest link. If they don't get back to the Super Bowl, it's because they cannot consistently play pass defense. They only have 4, I think, interceptions on the year. It's the fewest in the league. It makes me have pause about them going all the way to Arrowhead and not being in a foxhole. Because Philadelphia does a lot of things. And I know Jalen Hurts is hurt. He has, I think it's been revealed, he has a bone bruise in his knee. It's why he's not as aggressive in the run game. Their run game is slipped from the beginning of the year to now. And it just seems like this is going to be one of those games that goes back and forth. I think 3 points is perfect here because both these teams are even. They're both flawed, but they both find ways to win this game, and the Chiefs are playing at home. So if it's me, and I'm going to say the Chiefs, and both teams are going to end up with 2 losses, and then we're going to spend next week talking about how they're both going to be in a Super Bowl anyways.
Yeah. By the way, you think they miss Miles Sanders?
Yeah.
I know DeAndre Swift's a good player, but Miles Sanders was just steady Eddie. He gave it to you every week. Every week. I like DeAndre Swift, but I'm going to take the Eagles. You can take the Chiefs. We'll debate it next week.
Finally butt heads. I love it.
Exactly. All right, that'll do it for Ronde and Tiki presented by SuperBook. Hope you guys have a fantastic week watching football. Don't forget, download the SuperBook Sports app today. Peace.
Out.
The Ronde and Tiki podcast is produced by SuperBook Sports. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER in Colorado, Maryland, Nevada, New Jersey, Ohio, and Tennessee. In Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF or visit 800betsoff.org. In Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342.